Today we'll be discussing Sexual Perversions by Thomas Nagel. Nagel plans to discuss the topic of sexual perversion by defending it against the charge of unintelligibility and trying to say exactly what about human sexuality qualifies to admit of perversions. He believes that to be considered a sexual perversion, it must be a sexual desire or practice that is unnatural, such as fetishes, bestiality, sadism, or narcissistic practices, such as intercourse with animals, infants, or inanimate objects. Nagel also mentions that it depends on your religion on how you view sexual perversion, because to Roman Catholics, contraception is considered a sexual perversion. However, to Nagel, it does not qualify as one. He also goes on to conclude that along with contraception, abortion, sterility, and miscarriages are not sexual perversions, although they may be considered by others. He states a sexual perversion must reveal itself in conduct that expresses an unnatural sexual preference. As the article continues, Nagel describes how sexual desires are defined as an appetite. He goes on to explain how an appetite cannot be considered perverted unless someone sought satisfaction by fondling a napkin from their favorite restaurant. Therefore, this could be recognized as gastronomical fetishism. He also relates one's hunger that causes spontaneous interactions with food that can also be applied to one's sexual desire that leads to spontaneous interactions with another person. However, the argument of an appetite, like hunger in relation to perversions, can only help you understand the concept of sexual perversions, but he believes that sexual desires are not like an appetite. Nagel then elaborates on a hypothetical case in an attempt to explain how sexual desires between a man and a woman occur. He points out that in order for an encounter to be a full-fledged sexual relation, both parties must be aroused, acknowledgement of the other's arousal must be present, and the two must have mutual feelings. When Nagel makes his point about certain sexual desires being perverted in relation to narcissistic practices, his reasoning revolves around the idea that both participants must be aware of the sexual desires. If one is having sex with an infant, animal, or inanimate object, the one party cannot reciprocate such sexual desires, and therefore the relationship is considered perverted. In relation to sadism, or homosexuality, Nagel believes that these relationships consist of a dominating partner or the balance between male and female sexual roles are altered. Nagel concludes that our judgments about people are in no way to be taken as moral valuations because it is a very special and complicated matter, as is the dispute over sexual perversion. I believe Nagel's argument has some valid points. However, he does not clearly prove what he intends to, because many of his ideas tend to have varying opinions based on one's position, religion, or sexual preference. This topic is not an easy one to assess, considering the many ways perversion can be viewed, but I must say I agree with his reasoning and support his opinions.